Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first Erwin Skills 101 event. I'm excited to introduce you to Andy McGovern, one of Quest's leading experts, who will be guiding us through today's episode and our entire Erwin series. Today, Andy will tackle the important question of why organizations should consider using a data modeler. We'll also gain a better understanding of how data modeling can revolutionize data management. So let's get started. Andy, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, world. Andy McGovern here, and I'm really excited to have you join me for our first in the Erwin DM 101 series. Today, we're going to be talking about really why organizations are leveraging and using Erwin Data Modeler, which, if you weren't aware, has been around for quite some time, and it continues to be developed based on market changes, industry changes, and what I'm going to be showing you today is not the same Erwin data modeler you may have used years ago. We made a lot of improvements, and basically what we're going to do today is walk through some of the features of Erwin data modeler and why organizations use it. Now, a little bit about myself. I've been with Erwin now for over 9 years. I actually was part of the Erwin team back when it was part of Computer Associates. I'm really happy to be part of the Quest team because they really understand where we fit, and as far as the solution goes, we're really in a great place to help organizations get a better handle on their data management. And what I'm going to be showing you is actually going to be part of the foundation for a data governance practice. And you don't have to jump right into it immediately, but with Erwin Data Modeler in your workflow, you're going to get a better understanding of the how your data structures are put together and be able to share that information with everybody in your organization. So our agenda today is to walk through strategies for identifying and mapping current data structures, basically building models, techniques for efficiently creating a comprehensive, logical, physical data dictionary. This is the ultimate product that can be produced from a data model. The pictures are nice and everything like that, but when you have a data dictionary that puts your technical terms in business terms, it really resonates with everybody in the organization. We're going to talk about how different types of models can be leveraged to explain your data narrative, and how to leverage this information for reference and for enhancing both new and existing data structures. We're basically going to be able to capture a baseline of what you have today so that you can model for the future. We're also going to talk about collaboration and how we can develop these systems. And that's going to work into our next session, which is going to go deeper into the whole discover your environment and your structures. But today we're going to talk about why folks are using Erwin Data Modeler. Interestingly enough, and as I mentioned before, Erwin Data Modeler has been around for over 30 years. It's an industry leader for lots of reasons. One of the things that we'll find with our customers is that by having a logical and physical model combined, they're able to explain business terms and how things are put together to the business users, but that exact same model can be used by the technical teams in order to generate the DDL and anything else as far as maintaining that database. So I really like this slide. It's been updated a little bit, but this is pretty much what we've been doing for over 30 years. And now as part of Quest, we have the ability to really leverage that and to help organizations with their data endeavors. All right. This is an important slide because, as I said, Erwin's been around for over 30 years, but we're not just a data modeler. We have made several acquisitions that are all supporting our mission. So Erwin Data Modeler is our flagship product, but we also have Erwin Evolve, which comes from the CaseWise team. And then we also have our Erwin Data Intelligence. All of these solutions are integrated, and we can take what we're building within the data modeler, and as I'm going to show you some basic data governance functionality in there, all of that can be leveraged within the data intelligence suite and also in Evolve for business process modeling. Now, as a pre-sales engineer, I'm always hesitant to put up a big slide that has all kinds of information because at the end of the day, I have to prove that we can do all of this. But I'm always confident to show this because we can do all of this. And this functionality is a core feature of what we provide. And as we go through this journey, you're going to see that we really can do all of this. This is just a general overview of the databases and data structures that we leverage within Erwin Data Modeler. It's not a comprehensive list. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. But as you can see, we're not just tied to your traditional relational data structures. We're also going to be working with new NoSQL, big data, etc. So as of today with Erwin Data Modeler 14.1, we can natively support 33 databases or data structures. There's 33 databases, about 52 flavors. And what native support refers to is the ability to reverse engineer these structures either via JDBC or ODBC connections or from a script file. We can forward engineer from a base model. We can also do what we call a complete compare, which is where we can take information or we can take a model and compare it to another model and make changes based on an impact analysis. And I'm going to be showing you that today. And then finally, we can also move from one data structure to another. For example, we can convert from Microsoft SQL to Databricks. We can even go to JSON, etc. We have a new initiative here at Quest that's going to talk about model before you move. And that is going to take advantage of some of the functionality within the Erwin Data Modeler Foundation. All right, so let's jump into it and take a look at how Erwin Data Modeler is going to be able to provide all of this. Now, as I mentioned, we have 33 data structures that we can reverse engineer or have native support for. When we're working with these systems, reverse engineering can be run on demand or scheduled. This is a relatively new feature that we've added. It helps organizations help move more effectively into the operations arena to ensure that changes that you are expecting to be made are made and that unexpected changes are notated. So we have a pretty comprehensive reverse engineering wizard. And what this is going to do is you can build logical or physical models. We always recommend doing a logical physical. Even if you don't instantiate the logical components, that's definitely going to be helpful. Now, as we do this and we authenticate to the database, the credentials are stored and hashed, and we can actually save them into a configuration that other people can use without having or without giving them access to those credentials. We'll select the appropriate schemas, and then from there, we'll also select the appropriate tables. All of the relevant objects that are in the database structure can be reverse engineered. So if it's there, we're going to scan it and pull it back in. So stored procedures, data domains, triggers, anything that's in there. And it's all relevant to the database. So we're not going to pull Snow pipes back from Teradata. Another great feature of the reverse engineer with the data modeler is the ability to infer primary keys and or relationships. We can do this based on analyzing the names of the objects so that we see customer ID here and customer ID in another table. We'll infer that as a key relation. More effectively, you can basically deconstruct your indexes to establish those relationships. In some cases, you may be able to fix it. In other cases, you may just be able to notate it, but this is great for vendor application databases to see what changes that they've made that may not have been documented. Once we kick that off, the reverse engineering process will run depending on the size of the database. It could take some time. That's another reason why we have the scheduler. If you need to reverse engineer large structures, you can do it overnight. And once that reverse engineering exercise is complete, we will have a physical model and a schema diagram. And alongside of that, we will build the logical model or the entity relationship diagram. And this is where Erwin gets its name. We started as being able, as a solution to work with entity relationship diagramming. And as we continue through this, I'm going to show you some of the benefits of having these structures separate from each other. All right. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about how we can standardize the building of these models. What I just showed you is what I consider to be a raw model where we just have the logical and physical components combined into one model, and then we display that information via diagrams. Once we start working with this and we start introducing some basic data governance, we can do that with what we refer to as an active model template. And this is called an active model template because not only can it be used as a model is built, but the active model template can be used to change objects in the downstream model. So instead of having to make changes in 10 or 15 models, you make a change to the upstream template, and then those will be incorporated into the models as they're opened. So with an active model template, you can add different types of diagrams to the model, and we'll walk through that. We're actually going to circle back and talk about how those diagrams can be used to tell your data story. We can also use this to add user-defined properties, which is the way that we extend the meta model to incorporate organizational information to put this metadata in context. Is this relevant to HIPAA or CCPA or GDPR? User-defined properties are in the active model template. They become part of the model. They can be reported on in a data dictionary. They can be shared and distributed through ER60, which is our read-only web portal. And they can also be incorporated into the data intelligence suite. Along with that, we can incorporate naming standards. Let's take a quick look at how all this comes together. This is an active model template here. And we synchronize these as models are opened. These are the different diagrams that we're creating, and we'll circle back to this. But in this case, we have 5 different diagrams. We have 2 physical diagrams, one representing the index structure, one representing the schema, one representing the ER diagram, another one representing the entity definitions, and then finally we have our conceptual model where we're just basically taking that entity relationship diagram and distilling it down to the entities. You'll also notice as I walk through there was colorization and all sorts of things. That's also included in that template. So we can colorize our foreign keys and our primary keys as red, etc., and make it your own. So there's a theme that's in there. There's user-defined properties. We can incorporate standard data domains. Here's the user-defined properties as they are. Here are the name standard mappings. Now, these are really powerful from being able to translate from your business terms into the abbreviated SQLish. We added the feature several releases back to be able to translate that backwards. So when we reverse engineer a structure and we find a table called cust, we can commensurately create an entity called customer, thus making a readable, logical view. And that's going to be incorporated in the data dictionary. And now we can talk to both sides of the house with regards to what these structures are in terms that they're familiar with. As you apply the naming standards, here is exactly what will happen. You have your customer entity as opposed to a cust table. All right. Now, as I mentioned, we were talking about building a data dictionary, and by the nature of having reverse engineered this database and then applying an active model template, we really do have the basis for our data dictionary. We have logical components, we have physical components, we have user-defined properties that are set to their default of no. And the way that we can leverage information that you already have or to update this information very quickly is to leverage a utility that's included in the data modeler called the bulk editor. Now with the bulk editor, what you're going to be able to do is work on an active model and select specific objects to update. So in this case, we're going to select the columns in this model. It is a logical physical model, so there are attributes too, but this is the higher level here. We can select the column properties. So all of the user-defined properties, the attribute definitions, the column comments, sensitive data flags can all be set here within these models. You can make the edits in the bulk editor, or ideally, you can export this to a spreadsheet and make the edits out here. Now, when you do this, not only are you going to be enhancing the model, But when we're talking about definitions and things like that, you can capture your own organizational definitions and put them into the model. So when you're looking at it, or when team members are looking at the model, it's going to have the terms that everybody agrees upon. I like to say in my demos that customer is can be actually a toxic term. What is a customer? Each shop, each organization has a different definition of that. So if you use a generic definition, it's not going to resonate. If you use your organizational's definition, it can't help but resonate. All right. So how do we get this data dictionary out of the model itself? Well, in the basic modeler, in the standard edition, we have a report designer, which can be used to export this information to PDF, HTML, or to CSV for editing in a spreadsheet. There's over 140 pinned reports or templates that are available out of the box. When you select one of these pinned templates, you can actually use it to, you can customize it so that you can incorporate in the user-defined properties or anything that you use to mark up the model itself. Reports can be viewed in the report designer, or as I mentioned, exported to a spreadsheet, PDF, or HTML. And this is what the output looks like to a spreadsheet. In addition, within the Erwin Solution Suite, we have ER360, which is our read-only portal. This bypasses the need to manually generate those reports. It's going to harvest the latest version of a model and publish it out in read-only format. End users can interact with the model. They can switch back and forth between the logical and physical components. But more importantly, they can also download a data dictionary themselves. So this is why I refer to the ER360 portal as a managed self-service portal. All the models that are sent there cannot be modified or changed in any way by the end users, but they can manipulate the diagrams, they can search, they can even create custom um, worksheets to analyze the information that's all in that single repository. So let's circle back and talk about those diagrams that we saw before that were created by the active model template and why they're important. So here's our basic physical diagram. And then as we apply the template, you're going to see that it changes, right? And it's exactly the same diagram, but it's presented in a different format. There's the colorization that I mentioned that's being driven by a theme, and you're going to see all of the tables are in blue. All of my views are in yellow, primary keys in red. This is kind of blurry. What I'm really just showing here is the more the structure and layout of how these models are going to be set up. Now, as far as day-to-day working with the data modeler, we have multiple ways to lay out models. We can reset relationship lines. It's not as boggy as it may have been in previous releases. And I'm talking all the way back in the 8.x days, but we've been running the 9.x and newer for just about a decade now. Now, to satisfy the folks on the technical side, we have another physical diagram, which is going to show how the index structures are put together. And you'll notice that each one of these is notated. That notation comes from the template. So as we're building these, we know who's going to be looking at these models or these diagrams or who they're intended for, and we'll annotate that appropriately. Here's the ER diagram. And again, this is all being built out in one fell swoop. We reverse engineer with a template included, and it's going to come back looking like this. It's not going to be a raw model. The ER diagram, again, has the same colorization. The entities are in blue, and then my primary keys are shown in red. There are no views or anything like that because that's not an object that's available in entity relationship diagram. Now here is the suite diagram, as I refer to it, the Goldilocks diagram, and it's not just because it has a gold background. This is where you can show the relationships between your entities or data objects using institutional terms. We put this information before in using the bulk editor. We edited that and we put that in. So now when we're having discussions, the entity relationship diagram, as simple as it may be, can still be overwhelming. So by having a simpler view that's not as simple as conceptual, we can drive the data discussions because everything that's here is using your institutional definitions. And then finally, from a simple standpoint, you know, a conceptual view, just showing the entities. Most organizations have no idea that their data looks like this. And you can even take this a step further and put action words, so customer buys and things like that. You can refine it even further. So by simplifying the information in a complex system, it's going to help tell your data story. Now, this actually might be too big a story. So we can break the models down into smaller pieces, which we refer to as subject areas. And a subject area could be a business function, it could be a product, it could be an amalgamation of views. Like here, in this case, we're seeing all of the tables that are associated with specific views and nothing else. All of these objects are in the model and they can be manipulated, but by leveraging a subject area, you simplify the view, you simplify the objects that are related to each other. This can also be published in the report designer. It tags along into ER360 so that end users who don't need to see everything can focus specifically on this information. And this is what it looks like in ER360. So we're retaining that look and feel. The end users are going to be able to see this information, download it, interact with it as they need. All right. Now let's talk about the strategic approach to enhancing these data structures, basically taking your basic raw model and continuing to improve it. So we made the model look nice. So as we have a baseline of our models, we can now proceed forward and make changes to our data structures by leveraging these models. And the way we can do that is through complete compare. So this is my baseline model. I'm going to edit it and I'm going to make some changes to the employee table. In the employee table, I'm going to add a column, I'm going to modify a column, and I'm going to delete a column. Once I make the changes to this model, I'm going to compare it back to my production system. So I have my standard model and then my production system. I'm going to make the comparison at the database level. And then the final step in this is the resolve differences screen. What you're going to see here is the differences between those two models. Here's my standard model where I made the changes, which is in the middle. And then I also have my production model on the right-hand side. We have the add, we have the delete, and we have the modify. So this is your impact analysis to see the changes in your model against the production database. As I click this a little bit further, I can see that that middle initial is part of an index. So as of right now, that's no longer a candidate for change. So in order to make my model reflect reality, I can actually move the structures from my production model back into my standard model. And then commensurately, I can bring my information from my standard model back in production. When I do that, I'm going to create the alter script based on that impact analysis. Now, as we have these models together, we can also version them. Now, this is actually a step above the standard edition. We're talking about the workgroup edition here. As we have these systems in place, we can compare versions, see who's made changes, fall back to a prior version where we may have had it absolutely dialed in. You can generate a delta report just like we saw with the resolve differences, but this would be more specific to big changes, right? We may not necessarily be merging things, but we can see that we had it absolutely right 2 months ago, and then we can use that code set to move forward from. And this is a delta report showing the differences between an early version and a milestone. This is a report that you can create, and again, to just show the changes that have been set in there so that you can identify and follow the changes that have been made over time. In our next session, we're going to go deeper into the discovery component and then move into collaboration. But as far as collaboration goes in this entire solution, what you're going to find as we continue this series is that it's made to provide a platform for not only the modelers, but also the business users to work within this structure. We can set specific permissions for models so that different end users can only see what is relevant to their role. And it's very important to do that because data models in the hands of somebody who knows what a data model can do can it could be very, very dangerous, and you don't want folks getting their hands on that. As we take these models and we move them into ER360, we also, that's actually our full collaboration platform. You can share information, you can add comments, you can send links, um, you can add attachments, really make this a comprehensive view of your data structures, right? Yeah, they're models, but there's also information in here. And by having something that you can quickly bring up on a big screen and look at as a team and be informed is only going to help as you improve your data strategies. Some folks and some shops are way down the road. Other shops are just getting started. And I can assure you that when you come to Erwin, we have the solutions that can help you get a handle and move forward. So I look forward to seeing you on our next session where we're going to talk about Discover, go into deeper detail about how we can bring these structures into the fold and continue our development cycle. So thank you very much for joining me today. Hopefully you've learned a lot, and I look forward to seeing you on the next session.